there are parents out there who go, well, my child is the opposite gender and I'm transitioning them and raising them to be the opposite. And it's like, I don't know, man. Maybe like your daughter's just a tomboy who likes playing in mud and using Transformers instead of Barbies. I don't know. Like, can we not start injecting them with a bunch of drugs when they're 5 years old because you have a thought about what their internal feeling must be. When it's actually, I mean, it's going to sound stereotypical, but it sounds like a bunch of, wine moms at a book club going through the list of ailments that their children have and things that we're just working through it. My daughter's transgender.
Yeah, and endlessly complaining about it.
Right.
You don't know what it's like to have a transgender child, I've heard before.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. But they brag about it every time they meet someone new. They talk about their transgender child.
It's right on the list of their favorite topics that are so critically damaging to them.
Let's not forget there are moms out there that poison their kids so that they can get sick, and they get sympathy for that too.
Yeah,
so it's not very far.
It's crazy because there are real cases out there of accusations of something called Munchausen by proxy, medical abuse of a minor. And one of the big famous ones from a couple years ago was this Justina Pelletier case up in Boston Children's Hospital. She was diagnosed with an extremely rare mitochondrial disease, and she was referred to Boston Children's. And when they got there, they disagreed with the diagnosis, and they said they believed, or whatever, that the parents were actually faking the symptoms for their child to keep her in some sort of medicinal treatment. They didn't have any evidence of this. It was just what they thought. And there was an existing diagnosis for this rare condition, but Boston's like, no, it's so rare they don't have it. This girl doesn't have it. And so they took her. They used the status of doctors to employ CPS and take the child away from the parents for 2 years. She went into the hospital walking, and she had to leave the hospital when the parents eventually won custody back. She had to leave the hospital in a wheelchair, unable to walk, because of what they weren't treating her condition. But if you bring up Munchausen by proxy in relation to transgenderism, and you suggest that maybe a parent is projecting some sort of idea about their child's gender onto the child, you're the monster all of a sudden, rather than suggesting that maybe like a 4-year-old doesn't know whether or not they're the appropriate gender because it's kind of a complicated subject.
Yeah, and it can't possibly exist. I mean, with so many people out there with transgender children all of a sudden in this decade that didn't exist before. This has never happened before. There can't even be one bad one.
No.
I mean, they're all fully legit,
Yeah, of course. Of
doesn't
course
that doesn't happen
monster.
in any population. It doesn't happen in any population though. Like there's always like at least a couple bad people somewhere,
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. Again, and it's why we put into place these sort of rules for how to deal with these issues. We don't just have we don't let parents and children, based on their emotions, their lack of medical training, just dive into these sort of alterations, because there is a process of detransitioning, but the changes are permanent. I mean, detransitioning is in a lot of ways as barbaric as transitioning. You can't just undo what's being done. It's not like you stop taking Tylenol, right? And you just have a headache afterwards. Mm-hmm. It's a very involved process, and your body chemistry has changed. In some ways, puberty, especially like puberty in boys, results in higher bone density and muscle mass. and suppressing the hormones that cause that can lead to extremely low bone density and muscle masses. One of the drugs that they use, I think, is called Lupron, and people who have been on Lupron know that they become at extreme risk for osteoporosis. They get presently brittle bones that can just break from kind of normal activity once they're on it for a significant amount of time. It's a terrifying drug, and they're like, oh yeah, just give that to minors to keep puberty from happening. Like, I got an idea. Let's not do that at all,
right?
Because we don't need to. We don't.
Well, they also say, like, what's the worst that can happen is they'll just be a little shorter than they would have been normally.
First of all, especially.
But first of all, that's a big thing to begin with, just right off the bat.
Yeah, don't be a manlet. Oh my God, no. Kidding aside, though, like that's a crazy idea. They'll just be a little shorter. Well, wait though, like that's not what you were going to be. And when other things stunt the growth of children, we throw warning labels on them. We don't let them have access to it. We try and get rid of those sort of pitfalls, or at least, you put it in big print. By the way, your kid may be 6 inches shorter than they would be otherwise. They may, and why does that happen? Why does that happen? It happens because it stunts the natural process of development. It short circuits it. It gets done at a different time than it's supposed to. There's a number of other problems that can manifest alongside that. The crazy thing is, if you try and talk about studying those things or just pausing and saying, well, it's kind of important, you're now the monster. Because when something is not a medical condition but a victim status, you can't question the new church that's established around it.